Welcome to Aditya's class. In this video, I'm going to show you how to install Configure Windows Server 2016 on a VMware workstation and few other labs. In VMware workstation, click on Start New Virtual Machine. In the wizard, you can choose Custom and click Next until you see the operating system list. Select Windows Server 2016, give Next. Here you can rename it depending upon the type of purpose you're planning to use. Say for example like a domain controller. Now in this video I'm going to choose it as a VM001. You can select BIOS, select one processor. RAM can be as high as 16 or 18, but if you have less RAM, better to choose 2 GB of RAM. Other options are pretty much default. 60 GB hard disk is good enough for this. But in this lab I'm going to choose 100 GB. You can click on Customize Hardware. Here you can choose a new network adapter or any other options. By the way, I'm going to choose my operating system ISO image from the ISO folder. Make sure you have enough free space to install your virtual machine. If not, choose the right drive. Once the virtual machine option shows that it is created, click Power On. You can choose full screen, click Install and then proceed. Choose Data Center Desktop Experience, accept the license agreement and select Custom Options and click Next. Installation may take time depending upon your processor and RAM utilization. Meanwhile, we can start with one more virtual machine installation. Choosing Custom is a common option. You can choose Windows 10 32-bit or 64-bit depending upon your requirement. I am renaming the virtual machine as VM003. BIOS is good enough. 1 core, 1 processor is a better choice. RAM, you can increase it. I choose MCSE. The rest of the options are very much default. You can select new DVD and choose the right operating system image. Click Finish. Power on the virtual machine, just like Windows Server 2016. Click Next, Install, accept the license agreement, select Custom and click Next. Now this is obviously going to take some time. Looks like installation is complete on the server side. So I'm setting a password. Password should be at least like 7 characters long and it should also meet the complexity requirement. Numeric, alphanumeric and special characters should be included. So I'm logging into the server right now. You can see the graphics are not good. We would like to install the drivers so that we can have a better view of the operating system. Now Server Manager will automatically appear. On Server 2016, when you log in as an administrator. Click on VM and then select Install VM Tools. Go to the File Explorer and select this PC. Right click on VM Tools or double click on VM Tools. Just select default options to install the VM tools. You can notice that after installing video drivers, the screen resolution will change. Once the installation is complete, it will ask you to restart. So select Restart. Now on the client side, the system is ready. So I'm configuring the basic details. You can give the username admin but not administrator. You need to mention a password. I use the default password ASD@123 for all the lab systems, which will include 7 characters long password and numeric, alphanumeric and special characters. Cover server restarted. You can click on Ctrl-Alt-Insert or you can click on that symbol. Log in with the administrator password you previously have given. Once the server manager appears, put full screen view of it and then click on local server. You can see the computer name is not properly set, so let's rename it. Click on Change. Let's rename the computer to VM001. Give OK. You must restart your computer to apply these changes, so give OK and then click Close and select Restart Now. Now on the client computer, you can see it is getting ready. Let's go for installing VM tools on the client computer as well. So click on VM, select Install VM Tools. You can see the pop-up message saying that in the D drive we got VM tools loaded. So I can go for File Explorer, this PC, and double click on the DVD drive. VM Tools installation wizard will appear. Proceed with the default settings. As we have already seen, after installation of the video drivers, you can see a full screen display. Now once the installation of the VM tools are done, you need to restart the computer. Let's switch to VM001 meanwhile, that is our server. Let's log in with the password which we have given previously. Server manager will automatically appear. Let's configure few other parameters as well. Click on the local server and you can change the IP address. Right click on Ethernet 0, go to properties. You can deselect IPv6, select IPv4, use the following IP address. You can mention any private range IP. I'm using Class C private range. You can use the default subnet mask, no gateway required for now. Preferred DNS, same as the IP address. We'll be using this server for installing Active Directory and DNS together, so we'll give preferred DNS same as the IP. Give OK and then click close. You can close this window. You can click on status and see if there are any duplicate IP addresses or APIPA IP address. If at all you have, please make sure you disable the Ethernet and enable it. Once you refresh your server manager, you can see the updated IP address. You can change date and time settings on the server as well. You can see the time zone and time date have changed. Now what we do is we shut down the server. Before we configure any other services on it, we shut down the server on the virtual environment so that we can take a snapshot later. Previously we installed VM tools on the client computer. You can see we are going to take a snapshot which will help us in restoring the virtual machine to the previous stage if at all required. Now on the client computer, we can see the properties of the computer. We can see the configuration. We can also click on change settings here and then click on change to rename the computer. We can also go for right click on the start menu and then go for system and then do the same. Now I've given the virtual machine name VM003 and we have to select a restart, but I'm choosing restart later. I'm going to set the IP address as well and shut down the computer. So we have previously chosen Class C private range 10.network. So here also we'll be choosing the similar network, Class C private range 10.network IP 10.3. We're going to have our DNS server in 10.1. So our preferred DNS will be 10.1. So I have set the IP address and renamed the computer, and we have already installed the drivers. So I'm going to choose a shutdown right now for the virtual machine. Now that we have taken a snapshot for server, we can power it on and proceed with the Active Directory installation. You can see I'm choosing virtual machine number 3 and selecting snapshot. Once snapshot is taken, we can proceed with further labs. For now, I'm planning to install one more Windows Server machine. So I've selected create new virtual machine, and I'm selecting Windows Server 2016 operating system with the name VM002. We'll configure this machine as our additional domain controller. Same options what we used previously for server 1. No need to increase the hard disk space, 60 GB is good enough for this machine. We will browse and choose the corresponding ISO file. Make sure that it is connected and then power it on so that we can proceed with the installation of Windows Server 2016. Now meanwhile, we'll log into our server 1. We're going to promote this computer as a domain controller. So once the server manager loads, we'll proceed with installation. To release the mouse pointer, you can click Ctrl Alt. We don't need to power on the client right now because we need to first of all set up the domain controller. You can see we are using the similar steps to install our second virtual machine. Select Windows Server 2016 Data Center Desktop Experience. Accept the license agreement. Choose Custom. Proceed with the installation. Now while that is going on, let's start configuring our server with Active Directory. So you can see the computer has a proper name and IP address. Now I generally also choose to disable IE Enhanced Security configuration settings. So at times it may not appear on the front, it may be running in the background. So if at all you see anything like that, close it. Now it's not mandatory to disable that option, but in the labs I generally do that. So now we can proceed with installing any different features. I got all the required options ready for proceeding for Active Directory installation. So in the dashboard I'm selecting Add Roles and Features, and you can click Next until you see the list of roles. Select ADDS, add the corresponding features, click Next and install. So there are no much of options to choose here. You don't require to restart the server, so no need to choose that option while selecting this installation. You need to promote this server to a domain controller. You can see in the notification area. Now, domain controller we can choose. Right now we are planning to install a domain controller for a new forest. So we're selecting a new domain name, that is a root domain name. Now for this lab, I'm choosing domain01.com as my domain name for a new forest. The other two options are generally selected when you are planning to go for domain controllers or domains in your existing forest. For now, I am choosing functional level forest and domain 2008, and you need to mention the DSRM password, which should be different from the administrator password, but in this lab I am choosing the same. It's not recommended to choose the same DSRM password. You can also see that I did not uncheck the option for DNS, so DNS is also being installed. Confirm the NetBIOS name. Make sure that no other computer has the similar name in your network. This is the default Active Directory database path. See Windows and ADDS. You can also look at the PowerShell script if you want to, and you can also save this document. Deploy your Active Directory using PowerShell. You can save this as a temporary file, or you can rename it and then use the same script once again to do the installation. And if you want, you can also modify the PowerShell script to install it as an additional domain controller or a read-only domain controller. For now, we'll click next. And it is going to do prerequisite check. Make sure it shows it's good to go. A green tick represents the system has minimum requirements to proceed with the installation. So click install. Now that is obviously going to take some time. System is going to restart as well. So if you have any previously opened documents, make sure they are closed, saved and closed. You can see the server 1 or the VM001, which is going to act as a domain controller, is going for a restart. Meanwhile, our server 2 is ready. Let's log in with similar settings. We need to go for installing the VM tools and renaming the computer as well. So these are mostly called post-installation configuration steps. So your server manager will appear automatically. Meanwhile, you can click on VM, click on Install VM Tools. What we can do is we can click on the local server and rename the computer. So we're renaming the computer to VM002, and you know that we need to restart this computer. So I have given restart later so that I can configure other options as well simultaneously and then restart the server once for all. We have to stick to Class C private range 10.network, which we previously used. We are going to use this machine as our additional domain controller, but for now the preferred DNS is still going to be in our server 10.1. You can see I'm choosing the same settings what I chose previously on the server 1. It's not really mandatory to change date and time settings or time zones, but just for your reference I'm doing this. Now let's proceed with installing our VM tools. As usual, you can choose the default settings. No need to choose any additional settings. Stick to the typical option and proceed with the installation. And you will be able to see the drivers once they are installed. You can see that the screen resolution will change automatically. And it will ask for a restart. Looks like it is taking a little more time than usual. Looks like it's ready now. So let's proceed with the installation of the VM tools, or we can say drivers of this virtual machine. Okay, it's done. So let's proceed. Now I'm not choosing a restart, instead I chose to restart it later, and I've selected shutdown so that I can take a snapshot of this virtual machine as well. So it's totally off. Then now we are going to go for taking a snapshot. It's important that you take a snapshot of a virtual machine on a VMware workstation window only when the virtual machine is not running, when it is powered off. Now we can see our new domain is ready. Now we are logging in as a domain administrator, domain 01/administrator. So this is the first time we are logging in as domain administrator. There are a couple of things which we are supposed to check before we proceed for configuring any other settings. So once the server manager loads, you will be able to see the two new roles which we added, ADDS and DNS, to our server. Now we can go to tools and then click on DNS. Now DNS at times may run in the background, so do observe. Now expand your computer name, expand your forward lookup zone, click on your domain name, that's your zone right now, and make sure that you have 10 records in the beginning. Now it looks like one of the records is missing, that is domain DNS zone. So to get those records, it's pretty much important to restart some of the services. Now those services will be the net logon, and another service is DNS server. So make sure that those two services are up. Now here what we are seeing is the functional levels. Forest and domain functional levels can be seen in Active Directory domains and trusts. You can see we can raise the domain functional level and forest functional level in this option, and these settings are irreversible, meaning once you raise the domain functional level or forest functional level, they cannot be reset to the previous settings. So it's a one-time thing for now. Now by the way, we can also check one of the roles of Active Directory, that is domain naming operations master right here. Let's also check other roles of Active Directory. So I've gone for tools, Active Directory users and computers. That book symbol represents Active Directory users and computers. You can also go for dsa.mse on the run. Now right click on your domain name and you can click on your operations masters. You can see RAD, PDC and infrastructure masters available at one place. Now there are two more roles which we can check. Now you can see I'm going with creating a new organizational unit. In short, we can call it as like OU. So here is my account, OU1. I'm going with creating a new user called U01, login name also U01. User must have a password which should be at least 7 characters long, and complexity requirement must be there. You can go for properties of the user and you can change a couple of settings like logon hours. You can choose a specific login time for users. So you can see that I chose Monday to Friday, 9 to 7 logon permitted options. We can also choose other options for this user. Now what I'm using is creating 3 more users instantly or 4 more users by copying the user account 1. Now when I go to the properties of user 2 or user 3, what you will notice is all the users will have similar logon hours. I just created a new group with the default settings, and now I'm showing you how to add a user to a group. So I selected right click on a user and then selected add to a group, mention the name of the group, that is G01, and you can see that user is the member of that group. If you go to the properties of the group and click on members, you can also see all the users who are members of that group. Now you can see I'm creating a new contact, calling it as C01, and contact will not have any username and password. You can observe that we are just adding name to a contact. We can add few other details like address, email, ID and a few other things, but not login ID and password. Now if we want to learn more using PowerShell, if we want to know how to create these accounts using PowerShell, there is a nice way for a fresher who has very limited knowledge in PowerShell. Now in Active Directory Administrative Center, you can see I'm creating a new user account. Say user 5, logon name or UPN, that is user principal name, is going to be user 5 @domain1.com. You can see the distinguished name, that is OU equal to OU01 and DC equal to domain1 and DC equal to com. User need not change the password at next logon, so I've removed that option. And we can add so many other parameters, but right now I have just created that user account, and now you can see the PowerShell history for creating user account and enabling the user account. So you can copy all these commandlets and then you can paste them in a text document, or you can create your own script. Now I'll show you one more option. Let's say we want to create a group. Now we have already created G01, so we'll create G02 and let the group type be security and group scope be global. Now no much changes. You can see there will be a PowerShell history of that as well, creating a new group. So maybe I'll just show you that as an option. It would be quick. So I've copied the command. Now I'm going for creating a new text document, and in that I'll just paste that command. Now you can see the entire syntax of that command here. Oh, looks like I need to increase the font size a little bit. So notice the name of the group is G02. The important thing what we need to know is the commandlet for this is new AD group, and what I'm just doing is just renaming G03 with G02 with G03, and also same account name G02 with G03. In fact, we can delete that entire title if we don't want that. We can also remove server name also. It's going to get created in the default server. Now all I'm doing is selecting and copying this command. Now to run this on PowerShell, we cannot just go to PowerShell. We need to go for Active Directory module for Windows PowerShell, and there once it is up and running, I think I need to increase the font size on this one as well. Now just right click and it will get pasted, and you can press enter. You can see there are no errors, means to say that command got executed successfully. We can go back to our administrative center and just refresh the screen to see if the new group got created. You can see G03 is ready. So yes, we can learn a couple of commands using administrative center for creating or managing some resources. So let me save this document and close this window. Hope you can explore more. Now you can see that I have no client computer added to my domain. Now we did not see our site role, that is global catalog. So I clicked on tools and selected Active Directory sites and services. We can also rename our global catalog, site name, in fact not global catalog. We can rename our site. You can see that global catalog is visible here in Active Directory users and computers, domain controller. You can click on your domain controller, go to properties. So the same settings can be seen on sites and services too, but here we can rename our site. The site name will be default first site name by default, so we can rename it to something which makes more sense. Let's say I call it as HYD001 Hyderabad. And under servers you can see I got VM001. If I expand it and right click on ADDS settings and go to properties, I can see the same option which I have seen before. Now let's go power on the client and let's add it to the domain. Now I have powered on the additional domain controller, the server which I want to make it as an additional domain controller. If you are not seeing your server manager frequently, or if you want to see it though you close it, you can pin it to the start taskbar, or it is already there on your start menu. Now right now we have only one domain controller, that is VM001. You can also check the roles of Active Directory using DS query. Now one of the roles which we did not see is schema master. To check schema master, we need to run a command called regsvr32 space sshmmgmt.dll, which will allow you to register the schema. Now once it is registered, we will be able to see the schema master in the Microsoft Management Console. You can see I'm going for run and going to type MMC. And in MMC you can go for file, add remove snap-in. You can see the second one is your schema master. And you know that it defines the structure of Active Directory. It consists of all the classes and attributes. So if we expand the schema master, we'll be able to see all the classes. And the most common one which is the user class, which will have a lot of attributes too. You can see them in here. Now what we want to check is we want to right click on the schema master and look at the operations master. It shows that VM001 currently is our schema master. Now that is for the entire forest. I guess you got that. So I don't think I need to go further in here. We just wanted to check the role. Now in the next video, we'll be seeing how to add a client to the domain, and also few other topics. Now if you want, you can save the console, but right now I choose not to. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.